Because you say in the book the media needs to do its own soul searching.
Yes, I do. I do, Steve. And look, I mean, one of the things about C-SPAN, and I'm not just flattering you, but you guys cover everything. Let people draw their own conclusions. And I understand the pressures that the press is under, both print and broadcast, and certainly online. They've got to get ad dollars, or they've got to get eyeballs or clicks, whatever they're looking for. I get that. But our presidential election is a really big deal. And now we see what happens when somebody is not vetted. And people will say to me, oh, but we talked about the Hollywood access tape. Yeah, and how much continuing coverage did you give to the more than 12 women who followed up with very personal stories? Not much. I mean, it was always on to something new. And I think the Trump campaign did a really good job in changing the subject all the time. And so, they had a dark, divisive convention with all kinds of claims like only I can fix it and lock her up and all that stuff that they did. We had, I thought, a very positive, upbeat, optimistic convention, and it's been my experience being in and around presidential politics, optimism usually won. Optimism was what Americans were looking for. And the messages then that we were trying to convey coming out of our convention with Tim Kaine as my running mate, as I write in the book, we went on a bus tour. We went to hard-hit industrial places in Pennsylvania and Ohio. We talked about what we were going to do. I thought we had a realistic chance of actually getting these things done, even in a divided Congress. And Trump continued to attack the Khan family over the loss of Captain Khan. So the press covered that. They didn't cover what Tim and I were telling, steel workers or iron workers or, other people who we were visiting. So I really have to give them credit for understanding how to capture and hold television and the attention that one gets. And then if you combine that with the help they were getting from the Russians, which had two objectives, to lift up him and to tear me down. In order to tear me down, they had to lie about me, which they did persistently. They had to convince people who otherwise would have voted for me not to, because they came up with, wild, exaggerated, fables about me. That was all going underground in a very effective way. If I fault me and my campaign, it's that I don't think we understood as well as we should, and now I hope candidates in the future will, the combined impact of the theft of John Podesta's emails and the release of them by WikiLeaks, which, remember, happened within an hour of the Hollywood access tape being released. You could not have a better example of some kind of communication, if not coordination. Drop them now. Now is when we need them. So WikiLeaks became a dominant theme. Stuff totally made up, Steve. Just outrageous stuff, accusing me and Podesta of running a child trafficking ring in a pizzeria in Washington. Totally nonsensical lies. But boy, they delivered it. It went from Russian TV or Sputnik TV to Fox or Breitbart or InfoWars. It went into Facebook pages. It went on to Twitter. We now know that. We did not know it at the time.
So from your standpoint, the direction of all of this in Russia came from who?
Well, we know from the intelligence that has been gathered that Putin directed it. Putin said, we're going after her. I don't want her to be president. If she makes it anyway, I want her to be damaged. Because, look, I stood up to him when I was Secretary of State. That was my job as the representative of this great country of ours. And the behavior the Russians were engaged in Syria and Ukraine and the phony elections that they were running in Russia, I spoke out about that. That goes with the territory. But Putin took it personally, and he also is a pretty clear exhibit of sexism in motion. So he whatever prior experiences or connections he and or the people around him had with the Trump family, we're only now understanding. But he wanted to hurt me. And the order went out, and look, they are really good at this. They are good at compromising people by making up stuff. They're good at what's called active measures, putting out lies, suborning people, and it came from the Kremlin, and it was executed through most likely their intelligence services. And proxies like WikiLeaks, which has basically become a proxy of Russian government interests.
In your previous